Bit of chopping going on. For some reason this front edge of the dash top doesn't seem right, it sort of curves. So I've kept the binnacle size and just moved it over. Doesn't seem too bad. Not sure if it's that perfect, well, if that's how the originals were anyway, but I've kept the front face about vertical, otherwise it kicks this up loads. And obviously I want it to sit below the windscreen lower edge. I've still got to have some sort of raised area anyway for the vents. Okay, so it's turned into a bit of a jigsaw. Don't know if it's to do with the height, moving the binnacle over, all that, but a few mods required. So yeah, made my new front. This is the rounded off section that goes along the bottom, that'll be trimmed. Then this is the new round over section for the dash top. I've rebaited that, so my little table router thing has been out and use. It's a short little bit over there as well, and that's kind of defined my edge. Obviously I've chopped the binnacle, I've had to change the angle a little bit, and I've obviously shoved it along. So I think that should do the job. Then I'll just have to work out how to fiberglass it all together while taping it into position to make sure it fits. I think that should do the job nicely. Right, so that was the first bit glassed together, and then I kind of realised, thinking about it, I need more space here for demister grills. I think normally what happens on the real Gullwings is that the demisters are actually hidden behind this sort of upturn. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but to make a start anyway, I've glassed in this flange underneath because my body didn't have anything there. That way I can mount the demisters or the vent assemblies directly onto this and it not be an issue with the dashboard, and I can just cut some thin slots in the dash top. So this is sort of stuck on with fiberglass resin and like a powder mix. Once it's done, I'll put some more layers underneath and glass it into, well, underneath the scuttle. It's been very messy. Stuck my finger in and sort of got it nice and deep in there, so I've still got, you know, the maximum space to get the rubber seal back on. And obviously I've left it oversized, so once it's cured, and probably once I've figured out what vents I'm going to put on, I can trim it down. But also the dash top will just sit nicely on there, and I'll be able to put some mounting brackets onto it, so that should be good. And also I think I've decided, I've probably spent a couple of days planning this, so the speakers, so the mids that normally go along the base of the windscreen in the Model S, and you've got a single tweeter on my standard range one. So I'm going to put those here, probably under a fake ashtray, and the other ones that normally go on each end, I'm going to put sort of recessed in there, firing up at the the other side, the other occupant's head, and then you can see down there the sort of the mid bass, the biggest speaker down at the bottom, and the rear door speakers, which are also the same as these sort of 100mm mids, I'll fit in the back somewhere for fill. You can get kits to upgrade the base model Model 3s to use the tweeters. So they have tweeters in the top of the door by the wing mirrors and also in the headlining. So you can see these are pretty tiny things. I might just do a DIY crossover from the mids and put them up. Put, you know, just a a pair up at the top of the A-pillars, I think. They're nice and small. Seems a shame not to. It'll probably lift the soundstage a bit, but I think even as standard, the Teslas are, well, they've got pretty good sound systems. So I'll try and use as much of it as possible. There you can see, it's definitely coming on. And I think I'll do the screen mount next while I'm sort of mocking everything up. So that'll be a tube coming off the steering sort of crossbar. And I'll probably do it to more or less flush with the dash, and then I can make a separate bracket. Just so it's not in the way putting the dash on. Okay, getting there with the dash. So this is roughly where the clock would normally go, and I've welded a bar from the main cross brace in. These holes are for the wiring to pass through. Obviously the dash is sort of coming on. I'm chopping and messing around with the binnacle just to try and get a bit more flat land over here. And there you go, there's the tube for the screen. So now I've just got to make a bracket that will bolt into there. I'll probably have a little like anti-rotation feature, and then the wires will go through the top and out the front. So I've got the main screen cables plus this temperature sensor, which I don't know if it's normal, but it's got like a little fan in it to make sure it sees the true air temperature, and that's mounted by the screen normally. That's nicely centered. I'm thinking I'll make the dash out of metal. I mean, these wooden bits, well, that's going to be part of the dash top. I'll glass them together. The bottom one I'll probably leave separate because that is trimmed normally in leather or vinyl or however I end up doing it. And then this will be metal with a sort of a brushed or turned aluminium strip along the bottom, sort of an inch or so, and that's so that clock is centered in the remaining gap. What else? Oh yeah, and these are normally sort of little raised platforms, so I may well look at making some, well, 3D printing some sort of press forms. Quite fancy giving that a try. It's quite a simple shape and it'll only be thin sheet. So yeah, so now I think to make up the screen mount, so these are the brackets that come off actually the HVAC system which sits behind there. So I'll chop these down, weld them onto a plate, and then the plate will bolt onto there, and then the screen is here, will float sort of like that, and the screen is mounted. So the whole idea is that it looks like a screen added to a Gullwing, rather than the other way around. So the bracket is in. There is a certain amount of adjustment that you can do on the bracket, but see it there, just hanging down. And then the cables can come through the hole in the bracket as well, straight in, and then I'll modify the shroud that goes on the back and covers that gap. Then once the vents are in, so the passenger will have a long rectangular vent in the trim at the bottom, and then a couple of smaller ones on the driver's side to mimic gauges. I think I might modify that to well, the hole over here to take the stalk shroud properly. Definitely coming on. Right, with a view to getting the details of the dash right, I've got the shroud on, so the steering column is at its uppermost position, I'm just templating out the lower trim panel. So I was trying to keep it within the original dash, you know, so it's just horizontal at the bottom, but it wasn't really working, so that should work. So once that's upholstery trimmed, and the wood is a little bit too thick, but I'll trim it down and then stick it on the router, or the table router. So that'll give some adjustment on the way down. I think that'll finish it off quite nicely. I didn't really want the dash to be open at the bottom, so that's a nice sort of compromise. It's also looking a lot nicer with the shroud. I'll probably 3D print, or when I get the aluminium trim that goes round the bottom of the dash top, I'll have a trim piece there, and then yeah, it looks like the driver's side air outlets will just be round ones. It's only really space for one each side anyway, so I'll just sort of centre that there. Yeah. Okay, so I mixed up some bonding paste, and there's an M6 metal all thread sort of dowel locating those bits two together. Yeah, and obviously bonding with the paste. And now it's time to bond the dash to the top strips. So get, again, bonding paste along like a rebate in the wood, and all clamped down to make sure it's nice and straight and flat. Once that's sort of gone off a bit, I'll put a layer of fiberglass mat over the top, and then when that's gone off, flip it and do the same underneath. That's it glassed up. I'll leave it overnight now. A couple of stringy bits, but sometimes you just need to know when to stop. It's easily sanded up afterwards. There'll be lots more work, but at least this will bond the wooden strips to the top and keep the structure. And also this this little shelf that I bonded in is amazingly strong, considering how floppy it was as a single piece. So that's going to work really well for fitting the demisters on, I think, and keeping them out of the way. Right, it's been curing overnight. I don't know if I said before, but basically to aid release and help alignment, I put packing tape around the top edge of this just fiberboard template, so the fiberglass doesn't stick, you know, around the top if any dribbled down. And I've just gone through and then this wood piece was stapled in from the back to hold it in position and hold it all straight. And I've just drilled several 4mm holes all the way through, and ultimately I'll be I'll bury some bolts into these. I'll countersink it and fill over, and that will be how it mounts to the top of the dash. But now I'll take it off and do some rough cleaning up. A bit of fettling and dismantling, and that's how the bare dash looks. Figured without the steering wheel and screen it, you get a better view of what's going on. So I think that, obviously there's a load of body work to do, but that should work nicely. It's a bit of a pain actually clamping these to the, well, whatever you call this bit, A-pillar base or something, because they're not quite parallel, so it puts a bit of a kink in the fiberboard dash, hence why I was clamping all sorts of bits of wood to keep it straight when I was doing the moulding bit. But yeah, that's coming out quite nicely, I think. Just have everything put back in lightly. I might have to get some gauges and, well, mock gauges, see how they look, and obviously the demister vents. Cleaned up and I think looking good. Would have been nice to get the screen a bit lower, but I think practically it'll start getting in the way of your knees. And I'm probably going to redo the center console to have the charging pads underneath it. Just for reference, that's what the original would look like. Obviously they're all left-hand drive. So I do have to remake these sides to come vertically down. They're quite angled, as you can see, with some cutaways down here. So glassing some more material in. But yes, it's kind of getting the look of a modified Gullwing. Obviously apart from the column, but getting the classic sort of feel for it. Didn't really want to chuck a Tesla dash in, wouldn't look right.